All right, so we're gonna do one more type of landing, and we're gonna take advantage of this wind to practice it. It's called a crosswind landing. Now, every person who tells you how to land an RC airplane is always gonna say, hey, come into the wind, always land into the wind, always take off into the wind. But sometimes, when you're flying your airplane at a AMA field, the runway's only going one direction, and you can have a crosswind against that runway. And it's good to be able to land on that runway with that crosswind. So right now I'm going to pretend that I need to land this way now, and the wind is going to be blowing this way, so it's going to push us quite a bit over. So first things first is you got to be able to get off the ground in a crosswind, and that's pretty hard in itself. So whenever you're on the ground and the wind's going this way over your airplane, you want to basically turn into the wind. And so I'm going to have my ailerons like this when I'm on the ground, and that'll help not let the wind get underneath that wing that's facing the wind, basically. And so that way it's not going to flip over as easy. So then I'm going to start applying throttle, and I'm going to use my rudder to keep my airplane straight down my runway. And then once it gets off the ground, I'm going to release a little bit of that aileron so that it doesn't roll, obviously. So let me demonstrate that real quick. All right, here we go. So see that? So now I'm in the air and the airplane's flying sideways. That's because of my crab angle. So yeah, so now I'm going to turn around and we're going to go ahead and do that landing. And it's basically the same thing. I'm using my rudder to keep my airplane straight. Bam. So basically, you guys will see hopefully on this next takeoff that when the airplane takes off, it'll fly through the air at an angle. It'll fly sideways. It'll fly like this through the air. And that's because the wind is pushing against this rudder, which is making it go like that. And then I'm going to be using my rudder or my ailerons to keep the airplane straight, but it'll fly at an angle. It'll look kind of weird. But that's basically the wind. So I have my ailerons turned. I'm going to take off with no flaps. I'm going to use my rudder to keep it straight down this grass with a crosswind. So here we go. Oh, that was really terrible. But yeah, so now she's flying at an angle there. I'm going to go ahead and, oh Jesus, I'm going to go ahead and turn it and come into land. There we go. Now on your landings, this is what's hard to master, and that's as soon as your wheels touch the ground, you want to give it that aileron control so that that wind doesn't get underneath that wing. I'm literally just going to try to do a 360 circle on the ground here without using aileron correction. I'll show you what happens. Just completely wipes out, flips over. There's like, that's just no good. So now I'm going to set the airplane down. I'm going to use my ailerons to counteract with the wind. See that? See how I'm doing like nice circles now? Another thing I forgot to do there was I need to make sure I'm giving it full up elevator. And what that does is as the propeller pushes air backwards, it's going to hit this elevator that's up. And what that's going to do is really push that tail into the ground. And that'll help give me a lot of rudder authority on the ground. So when you're taxiing in the wind, remember to have your ailerons be turning into the wind and make sure you got your elevator all the way back. And that will give you a very nice, hopefully control taxi. Oh geez, oh. Yeah, that's what you're trying to avoid, is to let that wind get underneath the wing. But yeah, it's pretty hard, but I'd say practice that first before you do crosswind landings. But now I'm basically going to be using those different techniques while I'm landing. So let me just demonstrate that a few more times. Trying to keep her level, flying at an angle, straighten out, use my ailerons. There we go. That was pretty good. That's what you want to be able to pull off every time on a crosswind landing. It takes a lot of practice, but it works pretty good. All right, so it looks like we're gonna go ahead and just call it there. But yeah, I think overall I gave you guys enough information to kind of practice your landings. If you're a beginner, make sure you're in a really open spot, and definitely try practicing your pattern flying first, and then your approaches, and then your landings. Because if you have a good pattern, you'll have a good approach, and if you have a good approach, you'll have a good landing. So you really want to make sure your flight before your landing is all perfect, so that you can really pay attention to that landing and make sure you grease it every time. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one. Please give a like and a comment. I love reading through them. And yeah, thanks for watching.